Last sort of 5 minutes or so of the program, and time seems to have flown by very quickly. Final question we have is on the status of who can become a khalifa in terms of gender differentiation. And the question is a simple one, which is, can a woman become a khalifa? If not, what is the logic behind not having a woman as a khalifa? Azhar Saab, if I could come to you to begin with on that.
Well, to take the question which in the minds of some of our listeners probably would need more answer at last, maybe this is not the desire to do justice to it, but very briefly speaking, Islam, as all other religions, has defined the human nature very clearly and has given us rights and roles within our natures, men and women. And I say in religion in general because if you look at the issue from all the religions prior to Islam, they had a very similar concept of what are roles for men, what are roles for women, defined through the religious teaching. And that's based on the nature of man. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about fitrat al-nas, the nature of man is the real religion. You can't go away from it. So if men want to have babies, as much as you desire, you cannot do it. If women want to go out and fight and be the strength of an army, of a community, she's not really built for this kind of capacity. So in short, the short answer is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given her a duty which He knew by her nature would be very difficult for her to bear. Many of the Khalifas themselves have said, if you knew what this burden of Khilafat was, you would never desire it.
Indeed.
And secondly, of the best era of Islam, we talk about the earliest era during the time of Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If there were to be a woman considered, you would think it would be one of the women of that era, especially of his wives. But they never even considered to put them into that role. Hazrat Aisha, anha, as we know, was considered to be such a scholar, such a luminary in Islam, that the Prophet told that you can learn half the faith from her. Yet she was not considered over her father to be the first Khalifa. It could have been done because the Muslims realized this really is not the best role for women to assume. To lead men in prayer, to lead them in government, to lead them as a chief of an army, to be constantly engaged with men who are not in the prohibitive degrees of relationships on a regular basis. No man wants to put women into that kind of struggle and strain and stress, and it's very stressful, it's very difficult. So Allah has not asked us to choose them for this very onerous and difficult task, and allow them to focus their energy and their natural talents toward different things. The equality issue, therefore, is not challenged because we are equally given duties in the world, but they're just separate duties, and that's all we're saying here.
So there's a real definition behind and I think this is sometimes the erroneous interpretation some people take, that it degrades the status of women within Islam, but it's far from it, because there are defined responsibilities. And indeed, as you stated, of the status of the Holy Prophet's wives, they made very great intellectual contributions to Islam, and certainly after the demise of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well, Hazrat Aisha radiyallahu anha played a very constructive and key part in ensuring the future of Islam and its application throughout the world as well. And this doesn't, and just as a final point, it doesn't sort of preclude, the question we may arise is, well, why do you have leaders who are women? Why do you have professionals who are women? You have very able doctors, you have very able lawyers. Just a small point on that.
It's a different sphere, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the requirements of those particular duties are not anywhere near the requirements of being a Khalifa. It's almost as equal to the requirement of being the Prophet himself. You're representing the Prophet of God. So it goes back to the very issue of, in all this history of humankind, women have received revelations. Women have reached very high spiritual heights, but Allah has never requested or conferred upon them the duty of being a prophet, nor therefore the successor of the prophet. This is something which has always been given to the realm of men because of their spirit, their nature, and their capacities to handle this very onerous office.
Well, gentlemen, I think we've had a very detailed discussion, and Jazakumullah for your scholarly answers to the questions which were raised. And to our viewers, I also say, if there are questions you have, comments you have, please do remember, I hope by now what the email is. It's faithmatters@mta.tv. That's faithmatters, one word, @mta.tv. And the fax number is 44 for the UK, 208 687 8037.